So this is how we were seemingly systematically convinced that what we originally knew as the gods became some big question or mystery to us over time as we became more acquainted with these false ideas. So originally, when we had Egyptian and Greek and, for example, Sumerian religion and knowledge back in the ancient world, we perceived the gods to be visible. The stars themselves were depicted as these gods or seen as these gods. In Judaism, when that came along much later in 600 BC, they put forth the idea that God is not visible, that God is really on a plane which is not able to be seen, completely taking orb and UFOs and actual gods as they truly are out of the equation. So that when these types of beings would appear, they would either equate them to the Judaic angels or some sort of demon, some type of apparition, maybe a bad omen. Then Francis Bacon, who is also the person who transliterated the Bible and rewrote it in an Old English poetic form. He's also the father of modern science, and I call him anti-Socratic because Socrates was all about questioning everything, but Socrates would never question that there is a source. And Francis Bacon goes farther than Socrates and does question if there is a source or not. Francis Bacon ultimately questions if there is a God, and Francis Bacon sort of demands physical proof that there is a God. Now, there is physical proof. We do see these higher beings in the sky at night. And we do know that these are the higher beings above humans. These are literally what the bill we have created for gods is. They fill that bill. Socrates, on the other hand, being an ancient coming from Greece, of the philosopher variety, he would never question that there is a God. Socrates would find it to actually be stupid to question that there's a source or that there are higher beings above us. So it would be a given to the ancients that there is. And out of Francis Bacon's scientific method, which requires physical evidence for everything, we get basically his philosophy, which is materialism. So this is materialist science, the idea that we can study things, but only things that we can, touch, that we can see with our electronic instruments. So when it comes to things like the soul and determining whether there is an afterlife, that cannot be determined through materialist science. There's simply no way of materially knocking on the soul, if you will, and checking if the soul is real. It works on a dimension that we cannot touch and cannot perceive. And then finally we get to NASA, which happens to be post the invention of television, and NASA has their big quote-unquote achievement with the moon landing in 1967 or 69. I believe 69 is when it's successful, and 67 is when they first try it. NASA is seen as heroes for going into this unknown territory and potentially having to face, terrible aliens that might exist there. When really there are no ancient stories of terrible beings living in the heavens, because all the ancient religions saw that the upper sky and the stars and space as the heavens. So they would never perceive that there would ever be demons on or evil aliens on any of these planets. So that's a brand new concept out of sci-fi, which is totally born out of the materialist ideas, that higher beings who are much more intelligent than us would want to come down here to either rape us or take our resources or harm us or experiment on us or probe us or abduct us. These are all materialist concepts, like hunter-based concepts that lower intelligent beings think people are up to and beings are up to. But this is not a real motive for a higher being. And so ultimately, all of that brings us to the anti-God philosophy we have now, and that is basically just denying that UFOs are the higher beings that the ancients spoke of. So when we come back to the beginning, we have this pure perspective, and we see that the beings in the upper realm in the sky are really the same beings that our ancestors had told us about. So this is how we get convinced over time that the higher beings that we're able to see with our own two eyes, we're being told that those are just demons or weather phenomena or some sort of meteor we don't understand yet. So this is what is known as mental gymnastics. These are a lot of, lies in order to dance around the fact that we are seeing the gods.